To edit the base object for a reference object, right-click the reference object, and then select the Edit Base Object option. This opens the global object display containing the base object linked with the selected reference object. You can make the required modifications from the panel properties. You can also edit the base object through opening the global object display. There are some instances where you may want to intentionally break the link between a reference object and its base object. An example of this would be when you want the reference object to become a standard object. Once you break the link, it will convert to a standard object. If you accidentally break a link, use the undo command to relink the reference object to the base object. Click the information icon to read about the broken links. When a reference object has a link base object property referring to a base object that no longer exists or is of the wrong type, it becomes a broken link object. A broken link object can be moved and deleted, but no other editing can be done. If a broken link object refers to a base object that has been restored, it will become a reference object. Reference objects do not have property pages. Therefore, double-clicking a reference object does not invoke the Property Page dialog box, but it will instead invoke the Property panel. You edit the reference object's properties and connections from the Property panel. The properties of a reference object that are not editable are disabled in the Property panel. Click the information icon to read about the limitations for grouped reference objects. There are a few limitations for grouped reference objects. Grouped reference objects can only be moved or resized as a whole. These objects cannot be ungrouped. Additional objects cannot be added to a grouped reference object. Objects cannot be deleted from a grouped reference object. When multiple objects reference to the same base global object, tag substitution may need to be performed in the reference object. While performing tag substitution in a standard graphic display containing a reference object, you need to know a few key points. When link animation is set to link with expressions, the expressions will not appear in the tag substitution dialog box. When link connections is set to true, the connections will not appear in the tag substitution dialog box. If you want to use tag substitution, set your global object defaults before adding the reference object in your standard graphic display. It is important to know that tag substitution can only be performed if the reference global object has link connections set to false or link animation set to link without expressions. To match the properties of a reference object with the base object, consider these key points. When a standard display containing a reference object is opened, the object will be updated to match the base object. If a display is open and a reference object's link animation property is changed to link with expressions, the reference object is updated to match the base object. If a display is open and a reference object's link connections property is changed to true, the reference object is updated to match the base object. If a display is open and a reference object's link size property is changed to true, the reference object is updated to match the base object. It is important to know that the update cannot be undone. As an alternative to using tag substitution, you can use global parameters to assign multiple tags to global objects without disabling the link connections property. Instead of assigning tags to animation or connections in a base object, you can use tag placeholders. When reference objects are added to graphic displays, tags or values can be assigned to all parameters at one time. Once the placeholders are assigned, the corresponding data is entered in the Global Object Parameter Definitions dialog box. As base objects are added to a FactoryTalk View ME application, the Global Object Parameter Values dialog box helps you to assign tags or constant values. The definitions entered related to the base object are displayed when assigning a value to the reference object. Read the information on the screen and select the correct option. Only one option is correct.